Thank you, Stephen. We're used to seeing Joey. You've done a pretty good job. We're going to let you practice a little more, Stephen.
I think you nailed it.
So, we got it right. We got started. So we're going to start out with a call to order. Alderman Barnhill. Are you here? Alderman Blanton?
Here.
Alderman Caesar?
Present.
Alderman Peterson?
Here.
Alderman Berger?
Present.
Alderman Brown? Absent. Vice Mayor Potts?
Present.
Alderman Baggett?
Present.
And the mayor's here. So only one absentee tonight. We're going to start out with citizen comments. I'm going to recognize Mr. Stuckey. He has three things that he needs to do. And then I have one person that wants to speak on an item not on the agenda. So
Want me to step out first? All right. Tonight is a little bit of a bittersweet time for us. And this happens around this time of year a lot of times. We have three folks who have offered a lot over many years in our leadership team and leadership roles in our organization, that this is their final Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting. So the three folks I'm talking about are Mike Lowe, our longtime comptroller. We got to recognize him at Budget and Finance last week, but Mike's been here over 25 years in that role and has served very, very well. Brian Wilcox, right next to him, has been our purchasing manager for 20 years as well, 20 plus years as well. And then Jack Tucker, our Sanitation and Environmental Services Director, is not here tonight, but he will be retiring in early January before our first meeting in January. So wanted to recognize him as well. I could talk for a long time about each of these folks because they've done so much and meant so much to us. Here's the three qualities that really stand out about these guys. And I say guys because they're guys. Experience. They know what they're doing. Their dedication to this community, but none of that matters if you don't have the care. And the attitude about this stuff matters, our community matters, and how we serve our team and serve our community is incredibly important. And so each of these men brought that quality in their own way over what is now, 56 plus years of collective service to the city of Franklin. So we are grateful for them, wish them the very best in this next chapter of life, and we are forever grateful for the work they have done serving Franklin with us. So thank you.
they're about 56 claps. Okay.
Thank you for letting
Michael.
me embarrass you for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Appreciate everything you've done.
Mission accomplished.
Michael Holland, you've got 2 minutes to come up and speak to us, and you can come right here if you like, Michael, and just make sure the green light's on.
You're good to go.
It's on. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Michael Hahn. I'm honored to be one of the band directors at Franklin High School. I have been with the program since 2008, off and on, and honored to be in the role now as the head director. The Franklin Band has a rich history and a tradition of excellence. And we have had a record year this year. We won our 8th state championship. We are a regular semifinalist in the national competition. We have performed twice in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and we have performed once in the Tournament of Roses Parade back in 1996. We competed in Grand Nationals this year, and as part of that, we were awarded a slot in the 2026 Tournament of Roses Parade, which is a tremendous honor. We are very excited about this opportunity, and it's our 30th anniversary of attending the first time. And so it means a lot to our students, to our school, and to our community here. It is an honor to be the namesake of the city of Franklin, and we carry that name with pride everywhere we go, and we strive to represent Franklin and the Franklin community very well. We participate regularly in our parades and our events here locally, doing concerts and supporting everything that we can. But this endeavor is going to take quite a lift for us financially. And any assistance that we can get, we're here to raise awareness, but also to ask for your support. We estimate right now that it's going to cost just shy of $1 million to get the entire program there. And that's for 250 students to fly out, to ship our equipment across country, and to house them and, to help us go and represent us on the national stage with over 50 million viewers. So we really appreciate the support from the City of Franklin and all the things that you all offer for our students and our community. It is an honor, again, to be in this area and to have this opportunity to speak. So
Thank you, Michael. And
Mayor,
so,
we have some roses for you as well.
so is there,
Oh, thank you.
is there an address for people to donate? You've got a lot of people watching tonight.
Yes, sir. The QR code there shares. You can go to thefranklinband.org, and there's an opportunity
Love it.
to start donating to our Tournament of Roses fund. And we are starting to work through the fundraising machine that we will have to begin raising funds as well.
That'd be great.
Mayor,
Thank
may I
you so
make a
much.
comment?
Thank you all so much.
Great touch.
May I make a
I'm
comment?
sorry.
I was class of 1985. I was raised by Paul Wayne Simpson
Yes, ma'am.
and Bill Marley. Played xylophone, and we never won the Governor's Cup or went to any of those wonderful things. We did go to Orlando, but I just want to thank you for the care and the dedication that you're bringing to the Franklin High School Band and keeping that legacy going. It's very important, and it makes a huge difference in the lives of those 250 kids.
Well-
So my hat's off to you.
Thank you very much. It's an
And we
honor to
sold
carry on
oranges.
that legacy.
So
Whenever I student taught at Franklin, I worked with Wayne, Mr. Simpson, and Mr. Marley. So I have ties to the old traditions that we carry on, and I truly feel like we're standing on the shoulders of the giants that came before us. So it's an honor.
I was just going to say, when I was in high school, 3 out of my 4 years, we went to the Tournament of Roses. Our band was able to go, and boy, have prices raised up.
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
recall us raising $1 million, but it was a lot of money. And I just want to say, the community really, really came through for us. And I would love to be able to have, all of the, when is your deadline to raise this money?
We have a year. So we perform in the 2026 parade,
Yeah.
January 1st.
Okay.
And so we know it's going to be a heavy lift, so we wanted to start as quickly as possible. And we have a year to raise the funds.
Well, maybe the aldermen can help put it out to the districts and to the city as well. So I'm glad you came to share that with us, because I know what it meant to the kids, to us as students, and I know what it meant to our parents and to the school and to the community at large. We were so proud because it was in a town of 2,600 kids, or 2,600 residents. And we had one high school, and that was it. So congratulations.
It's amazing. Thank you very much.
Okay, we need to keep rolling here. We're going to go to the presentation of Visit Franklin Community Research. We've got Maureen and some of her team and a consultant with her tonight. Maureen?
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to see you all. Thank you for your time as usual. I think I know all of you, but Maureen Thornton, President and CEO of Visit Franklin, and I'm joined by Lauren Ward, our Vice President of Marketing and Communications, and Stuart Cullivan from MMGY Global, who was our consultant on this project. And I just wanted to share back with you all some findings from the work that we started, if you recall, just over a year ago, that were designed to help us dig deep into our communities that we represent and then update some language around our brand. So wanted to just kick off with a reminder. I think you all have heard me say this enough times, but the mission of our organization is to positively impact our local economy through visitor spending. But when we talk about what is our vision and why do we as an organization exist, it's really to help this community thrive. And so what has been a great joy for us in this work is doing it on behalf of and with the community, Williamson County and Franklin specifically. So why did we do this work that we're about to present back to you? Just to remind everyone that 2 years ago, we updated our strategic plan and identified 4 key strategic priorities. The first among them being that we wanted to maximize our destination identity and positioning. We have incredible equity in the brand positioning of Franklin and in Williamson County from a tourism standpoint, quality of life, and all the things you might imagine. But as we thought about how can we really maximize the the opportunities that creates, the number one piece of work was how do we make sure that we are digging in deep enough and clearly articulating what it was that we are maximizing. And so we embarked about 15 months ago on some work to help us in 8 communities throughout Williamson County, clearly articulating brand personality messaging, community messaging, and then laddering that up to our overarching Visit Franklin tourism brand. And so that created a few opportunities for us. One, it allowed us the time and space to really spend time with people in our community to make sure that we were clearly capturing the essence of who we are as a community and the way we talk about that to visitors. Because if we didn't do that with the community, it would just always be that thing that people say to get visitors here, not who we are as a community. And for us being focused on helping the community thrive, we wanted to make sure that what we say about our community resonates in our community. So we had the opportunity to spend time on that. And also in that process, build some consensus and buy-in around that destination identity that we were looking to maximize. And particularly for the communities outside of Franklin, making it obvious for them that they were part of the work. We lead with Franklin because you all know better than anyone, it's the county seat, it's the collection of assets, it's a recognizable front door to our community, but it's also important that we allow the opportunity to have people spend more time and money by going around and enjoying more of our community. And so what that really has boiled down to is a way that we are talking about 8 communities, unique places throughout our county, but one community. And one of the key research findings that we had was there are a lot of things that make the 8 communities, 6 incorporated and 2 unincorporated, unique and special in their own right. But when you really think about it at a high level, we actually all have more in common than we have different. And when we talk about what is the local and what is the community, we're talking about our county as a community. Franklin's still very prominently featured as the heart of that. So I wanted to share just a couple of research insights with you, and then the takeaways in the brand, and then also some very specific Franklin pieces. I won't, I'll go quickly through this, but would love to entertain questions or thoughts from you all. Interrupt me if you'd like, or at the end. But first, as you can appreciate, in our process, we talked to a lot of people in one-on-one and group listening sessions, and we also did a resident survey. I didn't put this slide in, but we talked to more than 200 people in one-on-one settings. We had more than 1,100 responses to a survey, and this question was in the survey to help us really make sure that we are all on the same page about what are the things that people associate with the experience in Williamson County. I don't think most of you would be surprised to see this, but what we really love to see is when you look all the way from historic downtowns, almost everyone associates historic downtowns with our community. And we are fortunate to be just steps from this and in the center of this great historic downtown. We also know that people have an incredible pride in living in this community, and we asked this question in a couple of ways. We asked people to identify first if they lived in Williamson County or not, and then also which community in Williamson County they lived in. And when we looked at people and the level of pride associated with living in Williamson County, more than 70% of people who live here are very proud or extremely proud to live here, and only 2% are not proud. So we know that there's an immense pride and that it means something to live here in this community. And we know that Franklin is this front door, not only from a tourism standpoint, but also from a county standpoint. And when we ask the question about pride in association with Franklin, we actually ask this to people who live in Franklin and also people who don't live in Franklin. People who live in Franklin, if you look at the numbers here, 93% of people who live in Franklin are somewhat to extremely proud to live here, which doesn't surprise any of us, I don't think. And somewhat more surprising, though not totally surprising, is if you look at non-Franklin residents, people who live in Williamson County but not in Franklin, they are almost as proud to be associated with Franklin. So we think that's a really interesting and validating comment to the work that even though when we talk about Visit Franklin, we talk about more than Franklin, it resonates for other people who live throughout the community. Now getting into some of the insights of the conversations that we had and how that translates into the work. One of there were a million amazing quotes from all of these great conversations, and I think nearly all of you in this table had a chance to have a one-on-one with Stu. But one of the most poignant comments that I think sort of rolls all of the sentiment up together is this idea that it's not our history or economy that sets us apart as a destination, it's the people and relationships. And we know that our history and our economy do set us apart, but I think what we learned in these conversations was it's because of the people and the relationships. Our history still thrives here because people came together to preserve and reclaim that experience. Our economy thrives because there has been investment from a leadership level in education and things that attract people that help our economy thrive. So those things are hallmarks of our community, but it's really because of the people. And so the brand and experience here really is driven by the people of our community, which I don't think is a surprise probably to any of you. Before I start the next slide, it's a video. I want to just explain what the video is and isn't before I start it. We call this our brand essence video. So what it is our way of communicating back to people in our community. Here's what we heard in these meetings and in this survey and in our experience about the way we all feel about the essence of our community. What it's not an ad. You won't see us pushing this out to promote people to come here. It's not a laundry list of all the things you can do when you're here. It's really designed to give an emotional connection to the people who live here, to validate, to say, this is what we heard, this is how we're going to use to inform the work that we do to invite people here. And there should be a little bit of an emotional pull to it. So no pressure, but I hope there's a little bit of emotional pull here. So I hope everybody feels a little choked up, but I won't poll you all to ask that. It really is our desire that we share the sentiment of the community in the work that we do. And so it really matters to us that people feel that emotional connection to this place because, you know, as Stu says in so many of his presentations, it's about the attitude and not the assets. Yes, there's great hotels, there's great restaurants, there's great shopping, there's great experiences here. But what makes the experience here different than anywhere else is the power of feeling and connection and community and people that you get while you're here. And so while we've been talking a lot about community research, because we're not trying to brand any individual community, there is a brand that we work on, which is the Visit Franklin brand. And through this process, it was how do we bring this research together and more deeply inform and articulate the idea behind our brand. And so just like an organization has values and positioning statements, we have created that and want to share that with you today. So our positioning statement with this brand is about who we're speaking to, about who we are, how we're different, and why it matters. For those who value connections and relationships, we are communities that believe in the power of community, where respect for each other, our history, and our land creates full hearts and fuller stories in a place you can experience life to the absolute fullest. So you hear that idea of full a lot in here, and we really believe that the power of community and the power of people and the power of experience here is something worth others coming and filling up on and taking that piece of it back with them from the experience. The brand has values, just like an organization. These are just a few words that sum up the values in the booklet that you all have in front of you. And some, for the folks that are here too, there's copies of this booklet. There is an actual fuller narrative around each of these that I encourage you to read. But just to sum them up for you in the interest of time, the values of being community-minded are around the idea that this is an accepting and welcoming place where we're kind to each other. It talks about a place where we still know how to care for one another, and no conversation is a short conversation. That we're collaborative, we work together, share ideas, and that we're forward thinking. Our history is about how we also then inform our future. We're connected to the legacy of the people who have come before us and the impact that they've had and continue to have on our community over time. We respect each other. We respect the ability to invite people to experience our homes. And then a sense of true, we're an unpretentious sort of place that is really values the idea of preserving things that we believe to be valuable and important to our community. Our brand promise says, we believe in leaving the table full, telling fuller stories, and living life to the absolute fullest. Spend a little time with us and we'll have you feeling the same. That idea of filling up on our experience. We have something here that people don't have everywhere else, and so people are seeking it out, and they, as we know, have come here to find it. And the brand experience, these are ways in which we categorize the kind of experience that exists here. And I think most of it will not be surprising to anyone in this room. The idea of where we've been and who we are, our history and the way we talk about our history in not only telling relevant programming and content and historic battlefields and museums, but also the idea that some things are worth preserving. And that's everything from our land and buildings and characters to stories and value and community that matters. That we may be small town in terms of value, but there is a big experience here, high quality things like Studio 10 that live here in this community of 90,000 people, county of 300,000 are incredible. And then power of community, it can be really hard to talk about a brand that is based on people because maybe not everyone meets Mayor Moore or any one of you. So it can be hard to experience people, but I think we can all agree if you show up in downtown Franklin on a weekend like we just had, where you come upon the Christmas parade or the tree lighting and you experience the power of people coming together, there is an energy that you just don't get everywhere. And so that's something that we are incredibly excited to talk about. And then from a community alignment standpoint, I mentioned we did this community research. Our work covers all of Williamson County. We want the brand messaging to be inclusive across all of those. We were really intentional in how we talk then about our individual communities. And so Alignment for Franklin is this platform positions Franklin as the heart of our communities. It gives the city a platform to highlight its people and culture and tell fuller stories of its rich history. It is an ever-changing, dynamic community driven by compassion, giving back, and preserving what we hold dear. It is a community driven by its values and beliefs that always stays true to itself. And then also I'll share that in addition to that fun Essence video that we shared, we have these anthems for each community. And so for Franklin, the anthem that we have crafted says, "This isn't the same old story. Everyone might have a past. Ours just happens to be more colorful than most. Around here, the only things more memorable than our character are the characters who made it. We've always had faith in this place and each other. Some say it's the way things ought to be. To us, it's just the way things are. Welcome to a place that is beyond time and belief. In between where we've been and where we're going, you'll find an amazing present. We've always been ahead of our time because history is something we've never stopped making." So that's our presentation, and I know when we talked earlier this week, we thought it might be valuable for you all to hear just briefly from Stu. We hired Stu's company in a competitive process more than a year ago, and really intentionally because he is the heart surgeon of this kind of work. He does it for communities big and small all over the place, and thought it might be interesting for you all to just hear his summation comments of what it was like to work in our community.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to get to sit in front of this body. And, I look back on the past year of getting to work and get to know all of you, and it's a pretty amazing community, the work that you're doing. We talked about the fuller stories, and the way that you do that, I think, is such an opportunity to be able to attract a new visitor that maybe you haven't been able to attract before, that thinks they know everything they know from the cover. But I think the way that you do things differently as a community is an invitation that's going to resonate with a lot of people. I think that the way you do come together from a community, as coming out of COVID, people are missing connection. The way they feel here is palpable. It's different than other places. So I would say that's a big thing. And I'm not just saying this because I've said it to you all individually. I've never been in a place where routinely and more unanimously I hear it's also a direct thing from leadership. And that the decision that the leaders who have been in this community have always made the difference. And so I say that as a compliment to this board, but also just know that it's resonating with everyone that you represent. And I couldn't be happier. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this process. It's been an honor to get to know all of you.
Thank you, Stu. Questions from the board? Ready to keep moving on?
I'm sitting here observing all this stuff and taking it in, and I think you did an excellent job. But the statement on Franklin, you hit it out of the ballpark. That was, you went to say that something grabs you, that grabbed me. That will grab everybody in our town who loves Franklin or who wants to get to know Franklin. My only comment other than that would be, if you could slow that video down just a tad to allow people to enjoy it, because they really cannot fully even see the people in it. It goes so quick. So if you could slow it down a little bit. I know we like fast-paced videos and get it in, get it out. You don't want too much, there's a time limit on those things. But I would highly recommend you slow it down, because there are people that just, you glimpse and you go, who is that? Who is that? And if you're doing that and it's focused on the residents, they want to identify with those people. They want to identify with those places, whether they're historic places or just streets in our town. So I would love to see you slow that down a little bit. Other than that, it's superb.
Very good.
Great presentation. Thank you.
Alderman Potts?
Thank you. Great presentation. Are we going to get a copy of the final draft of that? I don't think it was attached in the original agenda is all I was looking for.
Oh, Yes, so in the booklet that's in front of you, and then also the printout has the narrative of Franklin specifically. I'd be happy to share a copy of this presentation.
we'll share it,
Eric will send that out.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank
Including the
you.
video, right?
Yes.
That'd be perfect. Thank you.
And have public rules on sharing it?
Yeah. Let us know on that too.
Okay, the Franklin Tree Commission Annual Report. You're up.
Let's go.
Mayor, before the band gets out, are they a 501c3? That would,
Are y'all a 501c3?
okay, that,
Franklin. Yeah, I think it's Fans of Franklin Band or something like that. Do that QR code and it'll tell you. Okay, Paige.
Oh, I'll start. Paige wanted me to sit with her. She doesn't like these kind of things, so she says it's her tradition that we.
She's good at it.
I
We've
know.
always done it together, and she
Always.
wanted to switch up tonight, so.
No, thank you all. It is our turn to update you on the Tree Commission. This is our annual report. Before we get started, we did invite all of our members to come. We do meet probably 6 times a year, depending on what's going on. And tonight we have with us Justin Stelter, who's right here. Justin, if you'll stand. He's our green industry professional. And then Michael Johnson, who's been a part of this commission before I was, is our Middle Tennessee Electric utility representative. So huge thank you to them for being here. Also on our commission, we have Kim Hoover, Beth Adams, Jenny Williamson, who is also on our planning commission, and Trent, listen to me, Trent Withrow, who just finished his first year with us. Paige.
All right. So currently, this is just a little bit of a stats, just an update. Our annual Arbor Day celebration, Tree City USA, going on 18 years. Advising on the tree planting projects, 309 trees in the parks, streets, and throughout the city. 10,000 additional trees inventoried through Arbor Pro software, which you will hear just in a few minutes more about Arbor Pro. And then this is just an outlook looking in the future. We are trying to improve our workshops and lecture series, and not just have them in the spring, but throughout the year as fall as well. And then also, some of you may not know, this is new to the park system. This is kind of a kudos to Brian Walker and some of our programming team helped name this, but we have developed a volunteer invasive species program, and it's called Plant Patrol, not Paw Patrol, that's Plant Patrol. Really cute. And the idea is that we will have volunteers to be a part of this program. So you'll see some of those on social media being advertised. And we recently we're kind of doing this in 2 or 3 different ways. One way, we have outsourced our first invasive species program removal, and that was at Fort Granger. We just did that, the first phase of that. The next phase will be this next year in the fall. And then we're also doing it through this volunteer program. And then we're also just received a grant. We don't know the amount of the grant, but we have received a grant to do some of that at Eastern Flank. So we're waiting to hear that amount. So as far as Arbor Pro software goes, it basically identifies trees, locations, and species. It also allows staff to work more efficiently when scheduling tree management. And then there's the eco benefits. And then it also allows us to plan for long-term planning as far as urban forestry master plan and also management plan. So that kind of sets us in that direction for the future. And you will understand in just a few minutes more about that. And we're pretty excited about it. This has been presented to the Tree Commission, and Brandy wanted everyone here to see it as well. And some of you may have seen this, but this is a very quick version of what Brian usually does. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian so you all can kind of get a glimpse of what this looks like. Should be out of there. It takes a second.
Okay. All right. Well, excellent. Well, thank you all for giving me a few minutes of your time to present the Arbor Pro software that we have. What Arbor Pro is, as Paige mentioned, Arbor Pro is a tree inventory software package that helps us manage the city's tree population. It allows us to collect data on individual trees and to help us make informed management decisions as we move towards the future. What you see here is the outline of the city limits of Franklin, and those little green dots are a little over 5,000 trees that have been collected to date. We're in the process now to begin a contract or contracting again with Arbor Pro to where they'll come in and collect another data on another 10,000 trees. So we're looking very forward to that. The slide that you see here, the purple area, those are areas our homeowners association, property owners associations, or where landscape agreements exist. As you can see, that's a large portion of Franklin. And in those areas, with our city ordinances, we do not go in and manage trees in those areas. So we won't collect data for trees in those areas, but everywhere else that where you see openings is where we will focus our attentions to collect that data on those trees. Here you see the square, and that red dot that you see is a tree outside of City Hall. And with that tree on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll begin to see the type of data that we collect here in Arbor Pro. That data includes location of the trees, species of trees, the diameter of breast height, the height of the tree, and then it also allows us to take photos of that tree on the day that data is collected. And we're able to use that as a reference in 2, 3, 4 years down the road to where we can see how that tree has grown or if there's been any sort of issues developed with that tree through its history.
Does it identify what type of tree?
It's on there, captured it.
Yeah, yes. The staff from Arbor Pro and our staff, we go out and we identify the species of the tree, and that information is added to the overall data set. We're also able to, one of the features as well is to able to use Google Maps Street View to where crews, before they can go out, if they need to look at that area even before they get to the job, to get an idea of what that area looks like or some of the things that they may come across. Here, it begins to be some of the other features of Arbor Pro. What you see here, all the colored dots are different tree species. And you can see on the left-hand side are several of those tree species that are lined out. So again, it begins to paint a picture of what our tree population looks like here in the city of Franklin. Another feature that we use and our staff use this quite a lot, and this is something that we created inside of Arbor Pro, is the ability, we've divided the city down into 11 different zones. If you think of downtown as zone 1, the original 16 blocks of Franklin, and then you think of Mac Hatcher, the loop around town is kind of the next area. So zones 1 through 6 are inside the loop of Mac Hatcher, and then on the outside of Mac Hatcher, you would have zones 7 through 11. And this allows our urban forestry teams to be more focused and more efficient in how they move and how they schedule work throughout the city. What you're looking at here is Mac Hatcher, just north of the intersection of 96 West out towards the interstate. And the white bubbles, that's a work list that has been created by our urban forestry supervisor. So he's able to give this information to staff. They can go out to those trees and begin to do the prescribed work for those particular trees. And if they need additional information, they can pull this up, and just above that list, or you can see tree number 70, and they can look at tree 70. They can tell what species it is. There's already what kind of condition to expect, and they also can continue to see what sort of work is being done there. And then once that work has been completed, they can update Arbor Pro, and that work is updated on a daily basis, so the supervisor can then see what has been accomplished that day, and we can continue the overall work performance. The last two slides that I have here are reports that can be generated through Arbor Pro. Here we see the number of trees that have been collected in individual zones throughout the city. And you can see Zone 2 at the top. There's currently 854 trees have been collected, but down towards the bottom you see Zone 9, there's only been 5 trees. Well, that doesn't mean that there's just 5 trees in Zone 9. It's just that's all that's been collected to this point. And one of the interesting things that I look forward to see as we begin to get closer of completing all of our tree inventory is that we can use a chart like this to identify areas of town where there may not be as many trees planted in one particular area. You know, for example, in Zone 5, there's 681 trees to date. But in Zone 7, there's only 249 trees. So if that was the final number, what we could do is we could look at that information. We could then go to those areas and see, are there opportunities to plant more trees in those locations, or reasons why are there or why are there not trees there. So I think it's a great tool to help us with tree equity throughout the city. The last slide I have is really one that I find to be the most interesting. This is a breakdown of all the various species of trees that we have throughout the city. And as I mentioned earlier, there's 5,000 trees that have been collected to date. And of those 5,000 trees, if you look at the first three types of trees, they're all maples: the sugar maple, red maple, silver maple, and there's a couple other maples that are scattered down through that list. Now, maples are great trees, and they have a lot of wonderful qualities, but what we begin to see is right now we have a little over 1,600 trees of our 5,000 trees are maples. And so from a biodiversity standpoint, we're getting a little out of balance. And so what that allows us to do, now that we know that, whenever we go to plant trees in the right of ways or on other city property or in our parks, what it allows us to do is to choose other trees to help us begin to create greater biodiversity as a whole. Thank you.
Alderman Caesar?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate the presentation page, Alderman Blanton and Brian. I was really impressed to see the layout of the maples, and I'm glad to see that the Bradford pear is not atop that list. But I did have one quick question, because we're not capturing Bradford pears. In my neighborhood, that was a tree that was kind of very, very commonly placed, and the winds and age have gotten to most of those, thankfully. Is there going to be an option for us just to have a complete and potentially comprehensive view of our community's tree population, for HOAs to upload the trees if they choose on their own, not for us to manage, but to have a complete picture?
That isn't currently how Arbor Pro is being set up. I mean, that would be something that can be explored. If the city or the board chose to collect that data, that is something that can be done. It's just they would require resources in order to be able to do that.
It might be interesting, and I don't know, maybe the board can consider this in the future, but I'm curious how maybe our tree landscape would change if we had every tree in the area collected, and that might be beneficial.
Right, but I think you have to be careful about who's uploading that information into software that belongs to the city.
Very fair.
Can you trust what's being put in there, and is it professionals that's uploading that data? I mean, when we're working with Arbor Pro and then our guys are going back out, we know that information's correct. I understand what you're saying. I don't see that it's not a great idea. I just don't know how you would manage something like that.
I think maybe we could figure that out if there's an appetite, or if perhaps the Parks Department, and working with other communities, has learned, like, this is a gray area and these are some of the challenges. I'd love to see us have a real understanding of what trees exist here, because if I'm not mistaken, we are Tree City USA. And I'd love to see us have a comprehensive view of the trees that are in our Tree City.
Are you talking about the HOAs only? Or are you just talking about?
It sounds like HOAs, the purple areas in the graphs,
Purple,
and if
yeah.
there's others, then perhaps.
Yeah, some commercial areas. I was thinking, at some point, we should be able to get to where we could identify, at some point, where we could identify the trees in these subdivisions and give that information, share that information with those HOAs, because that would help them better manage that. I mean, they can't do that. That's not possible for them to do it. And that's a daunting job.
And we have a very small staff in our
Yeah, I
urban
know.
forestry.
But I'm saying at some point, maybe if this is a software program and it's good, then we should be able to utilize it for those subdivisions eventually. Maybe not tomorrow.
Right, and I think the impetus of us even getting this, I mean, this is huge for the Parks Department.
Right.
Because we finally have something where they can manage the inventory of the trees that we own
Yeah.
as a municipality. I think having, long range goals is great. I just think we gotta walk before we run.
Yeah,
So-
how expensive is this kind of tool, Arbor Pro?
The upcoming contract will be around $43,000 to collect 10,000 trees.
And this was approved. The first round was 5,000 trees, and it was a little,
25?
yeah, it was a little under 25. And this did go through the Tree Commission, Tree Bank funds for the inventory of the trees, not the software. The software did go through the city parks operating budget.
Well, I wonder if it's an opportunity, I won't belabor this point at all, we can talk about it later, but possibly all the HOAs going together and sharing Arbor Pro for themselves. So one question I do have is, how does this Arbor Pro help you when there's a disease of certain species? How does that help you to identify or address those epidemics that happen? Or I don't know if that's the word, but the disease of the species.
Well, yeah, right now, historically, there's been 3 issues that have come through in relatively recent history. You may recall Dutch elm disease.
Yeah, right.
Before that, there was chestnut blight. And today, what we're dealing with is the emerald ash borer.
Yeah.
And so what it does is, what this tree inventory will do for us, it will identify where all of our green ash trees are. And so therefore, when we know that quantity, we can begin to decide on how best to manage that. Where do we need to employ those resources at? Now, and as far as the data, as far as telling us how to manage that tree, well, that comes from our staff. Once we know where those trees are at, now we know where to look, and we can continue to monitor those on a more frequent basis.
Yeah, because sometimes there are treatments that you can do.
Correct.
And then sometimes there's not, so I was
Correct.
just curious
All right.
about that. Thank you.
I'll just make a quick comment. One of the things that has happened in the last 10 years is we've really built a true urban forestry program and team. We didn't have that before. And the Parks Department, the Tree Commission, Brian specifically have put a lot into making that happen. And I think you can see the benefit of that as we've built that out. Yes, there's more that can be done, but the fact that we're doing it and we're doing it at the level we're doing it is a significant accomplishment. And I want to compliment the Parks team and the Tree Commission for their support and your support in providing things like the software and the staff team that we've built. We didn't have that 10 years ago, and we do now, and it has a lot of promise to help us over the long term. So thank you all for
And
that.
really quickly, the reason why we are a Tree City USA, I should have told you this earlier. There's a couple of reasons why we get that designation. One is that we host an annual Arbor Day celebration, and the other is that we have a tree commission.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do necessarily with our trees in particular, but it has to do with the infrastructure and the importance that we set up on educating our community and celebrating the tree. So that's why we have the Tree City designation.
Yeah, and I remember when we
need to
voted
move
on that.
I'm
and that,
sorry.
you know, it was
We're on
good.
item
It was good.
2,
It was a good deal.
and we've got 50 minutes eaten up. So, Resolution 2024-105, resolution consenting to the Health and Education Facilities Board of the City of Franklin negotiating and accepting payments in lieu of ad valorem tax with respect to a certain project in the City of Franklin, Tennessee, and finding that such payments are deemed to be in furtherance of the public purpose of the board as defined in Tennessee Code Annotated 48-101-312.
So last meeting, you approved a conduit financing through the Health and Education Board to help support renovation updates to affordable housing units in the Harpeth Hills complex, 51 units, I believe it is. And there's an additional complimentary or supplementary request related to that we want to present to you tonight, working with the owner, and Christine will help introduce that. So take it away.
I almost have his presentation pulled up. Let me get this just one moment here. Go ahead and hit your. There we go. Thank you, Eric. This request is a payment in lieu of tax is a form of a property tax incentive to support, in this case, the public purpose of affordable housing. And this is a request that's been of a project that's being brought to the city for consideration, as well as to the county and to Franklin Special School District. And in this case, the new owners of the Harpeth Hills apartment community That's located on Sycamore Drive near Liberty Elementary School. That's been purchased by Alco Management out of Memphis. We have Thomas Robinson with us. He's the vice president with Alco. And this is an opportunity to support this affordable housing for an existing community. The pilot program itself does not reduce property taxes. In this case, the city has been receiving property taxes from the existing community for over 50 years. This actually was built in the late 60s. You may be familiar with this community. And there are 51 units. Many of them have longtime residents already that have been living there. And this is an opportunity for the new owners, who are also approximately a 50-year-old company and have lots of experience throughout the region and doing this type of work, to be able to do a rehabilitation project utilizing federal tax credits. And in this program, the owners do manage after the rehabilitation is done. They do pledge to keep these units as affordable as part of the pledge with the federal tax credits, as well as if they are being considered and approved for a payment in lieu of tax program. So this is actually, before Thomas describes what their project is, this is not a very expensive request because, of course, our property tax is low. And so and this community already exists. It's not a greenfield. It is a project that we the base year is the current year of taxes, which is a community that already is there. It is a way to abate the taxes on the enhancement, the improvements that would be to the community. So while my calculation is using assumptions of current information, it's a little bit under a $30,000 ask over 15 years. It does create an opportunity to support the project, as well as show others that this community could be interested in supporting affordable housing and upgrades in affordable housing in this manner. So I would like to ask Mr. Robinson to just briefly describe. He's got just a couple of slides about this project, and certainly we'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Well, thank you all. I'm Thomas Robinson from Alco Management in Memphis, Tennessee. I've had a great opportunity to spend time in Franklin and get to know Christine and meet with the mayor and meet with Shauna and meet with the Health and Ed Board. The very short story is that Harpeth Hills is a 50-year-old community that for over 40 years has been restricted to low-income residents. Alco has purchased the property with a plan to redevelop that. We will do a significant renovation of every apartment unit and the exteriors and make a 30-year commitment to continue affordability so that the property can continue to serve the purpose that it has been serving in Franklin for a long time. These properties are financed with a variety of public and private finance tools. So the Tennessee Housing Development Agency has awarded an allocation of tax credits and tax-exempt bonds, which we worked with the Health and Ed Board on. We will take out a private mortgage, and we will have an investor for the tax credits in First Horizon Bank. Our overall plan is to spend over $4 million renovating the 51 units. It is significant. Exterior, we'll work on the asphalt, new light fixtures, new signage. We'll do underground repairs to sewer lines that need replacement, new roofs, new gutters, new siding, new doors, new windows, making the property envelope more efficient and more attractive. On the inside of each unit, we'll upgrade the major systems, the kitchen cabinets and the appliances, the mechanical equipment, the HVAC, the water heaters, the bathroom systems, replacing the tubs, the tile, the fixtures, the light fixtures, vanities, and flooring. Overall, it is not a fancy project, but it's an important project to make sure these properties continue to provide safe, quality, affordable housing for the residents that live there now and those that will need to live there in the future. Let's see. This is just an example of kind of where the property is today with some previews of our typical fixtures. So it's not, we don't use granite countertops. We don't do, we don't use gold-plated faucets, but we do use quality, sustainable materials that will last for a long time and provide a nice home for the residents. And then what we have asked in talking to Christine was a 15-year pilot that fixes the property tax where they are now and then increases 3% per year. So that gives us consistency and assurance of where we're going to be. It does allow us, the Franklin taxes are extremely low in proportion to the overall tax burden. So it does also allow us to go to the county and the school district and ask for similar treatment. And I'd be happy to answer any questions either at this meeting or one-on-one at any time.
Alderman Baggett.
That's a pretty big parcel of land, right?
Sir.
And so their future development, additional development, I mean, it's a formerly Ward 4, but now Ward 2, but it's a pretty big, this is their future development.
We would look at the possibility. Our primary focus is on preservation of existing, and we focus on this property type. But you're right, there is a lot of land, and we would look to see if that were possible, but I can't make any definitive statements on whether we would achieve that or not.
It's just a, there's not a lot of parcels that big.
Yes, sir.
And, this is, I think it's great because we have, again, 51 units. And we're looking at $30,000, what we're spending to, to maintain that. And we look at some other options that are quite more expensive for the board. But I do think that it's a pretty big piece of land and an affordable part of the community. So I've always thought that would be redeveloped. Didn't know that it would be like this, which is good to keep the 51 units, but it's how many acres?
I think it is 4 acres.
4 acres of land in a 4, So I guess does this would, by us doing this, if there's any future development plan, it would just be reconsider, I mean.
It would be on this. What you're
Anything else.
locking in is the preservation of the 51 units for a 30-year period.
Yes, sir.
That to me is the headline.
Okay.
At a pretty affordable level in terms of the incentive that you're providing or support you're providing. If there were additional development that happens there, that would be a separate discussion beyond these being maintained. That it would be what else could you add to it, and that would go through a normal development process and consideration there. So I think it's sort of would be a separate question down the line if it even happened. But this provides a baseline of preserving and improving those 51 units in the affordable range too.
So I guess what I'm saying is this is great. I think that's wonderful, but like if you wanted to do more affordable here, I think this board and the city would be open to doing that. So if this project kind of constricts your 4 acres to the 51 units, but I do think this is the best bang for our buck to get affordable when we do things like this. And we just have done another one over across the interstate, and it's very affordable for us to do it, and it creates the units we need. So, and that's right in the heart of our community. And I don't know really anything else that's not owned by the housing authority in such proximity to downtown where affordable could be. So take that back to your investors and whoever. But that is a really important piece of property, I think, long-term for affordability in the community. And we could probably support more than 50 units, but I support this.
Okay, great. Thanks for being here, Thomas.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Safe travel back to Memphis.
Yes,
We're
sir.
going to go to item 4, which is a contract number 2024-0269 is amended with the Cool Springs Conference Center designating the conference center as a sub-recipient of American Rescue Plan Act grant funds.
We're just updating the name of the recipient. It's just an update of the title of their partnership
And the signing.
and the signage. Yeah.
Everybody good? All right, item 5, thanks. Y'all are very vocal, thank you. Item 5 is Resolution 2024-109, authorizing the pre-ordering of fire apparatus in advance of the fiscal year. You guys just came up early, you were so excited about it. Any questions about that? We just need to order it because it takes 3 years to
We've
get
done
it.
this in the past, and it gets us in line, locks in those prices, and it just takes longer to get the equipment. So this gets us moving ahead on the replacement cycle.
Thank you. Okay.
Good job, guys.
Item 6 is Resolution 2024-81, resolution amending the Haven at Cool Springs PUD subdivision to extend the vested rights for the property located north of Cool Springs Boulevard, east of MacHatcher Parkway, located at 151 Cool Springs Boulevard.
I think Joey will speak to this, but this is on both agendas, and we have a little bit of time here but it is also on your 7 o'clock for consideration, and it is strictly a vesting extension request. Go, Joey.
And I would emphasize that again before Joey gets started, is this is whether to extend the vesting rights or not to extend the vesting rights. It has nothing else to do with the color, the shape, all that's already been approved.
Well, that covers what I was going to say. So
Say it again.
Ditto. So I'll turn over to the applicant because they're the ones that requested this appearance at work session.
Yes, thank you guys. I'm Katie Garrett with Kaiser Berger and Design, the applicant. I also have I've got David Kulkarni here, who is the owner of the property, and then Josh Lee with Thompson Burton. We met with several of you all. Most have asked that we have another work session, which is why we're here tonight, and wanted to also remind you all that we do expire the vesting on Friday of this week, December 13th. So want to make sure that that's noted tonight.
And just one more brief note, this is the first extension request for this project, just approved approximately 3 years ago. The extension request is for a 2-year extension. This is not a project where nothing has happened since the initial entitlements were granted. We do have everything ready to go, site plans ready to go. The permits are ready to be pulled as soon as financing is completed. And this will be one of the first projects that will actually improve some of the traffic along this area, right between McEwen and Mac Hatcher along Cool Springs Boulevard. I think you've got an updated traffic impact study related to that area and some of the traffic impacts there. So this will be one of the first projects that will improve that area. So we're happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
No questions? Thank you. So we'll go on. Well, Josh, you were the one that wanted to speak on it, so you've already spoken, so thank you. We'll now go to item number 7, which is Amendment 1 to City of Franklin Contract 2011-0156 with Energy Source Partners and the City of Franklin for solar services and site lease agreement.
This is the upgrade we've talked about a couple times before to the original solar facility that we have out at the wastewater or water reclamation facility. So, Andrew, talk about what we're doing.
Yes, very quickly, I've got Ron Merville with us tonight. He's the founder of Energy Source Partners based out of Nashville. I'd like to thank Mark Hilty and Michelle and Blake Harper and for everybody's goodwill, collaboration in putting the contract amendment together. The original contract goes back to 2011. And the existing 200 kW solar project was operational in 2012. So it's going on 12, 13 years old now. We are motivated to do something because the TVA premium expired in 2022. So an opportunity has arisen to expand the array from 1 acre that we're leasing to Energy Source Partners to around 4, and to also expand the system to about 1.5 megawatts, and that would also include a flow battery. So that kind of sums up the project. There is an incentive for the city to do this in terms of the lease and the revenue sharing that would occur over time, which would be about a 20-year lease period. We did write into the contract that a consultant would provide a peer review of the electrical plans prior to being submitted to the city of Franklin. So we think there could be some value engineering and also just to ensure the project integrity. So turn it over to Ron to make any additional comments.
Thank you. Thank you. We went through the committee process here starting in February all the way through till August, and worked with Andrew and the city and answered questions for a number of months. So it's been well vetted. It's been by the city and the sustainability committee. The city is set to get about $4 million out of this over the life. More if Middle Tennessee Electric goes up on their rates. They seem to be going up more than they used to.
Sometime in the 20-year period.
It'll mean about initially about $30,000 a month, and we would get part of that until we get our money back, And then we're splitting it 50-50 as partners all the way through to the end. So that's it in a nutshell. And it's a great facility. Yeah.
Okay, item 8 is a progress report on Resolution 2024-05, adopting a plan of services for the annexation of 2247 South Barry's Chapel Road to the City of Franklin. Establish a public hearing. This is just a report. How are we doing?
We're doing good.
We're doing what we said we did.
Yeah, it's fulfilled.
Good job.
You nailed that.
Okay, we'll go to item 9, which is ordinance 2024-49 to establish the no parking anytime zones along the extents of Green Acres Drive and Harpeth Drive.
This is a topic that has come up before you from citizen requests and something staff has been working on for some time with some impacts in this neighborhood related to a new business or a change in the use of a property nearby and how that's impacted parking. We've been working through our normal process, but we also know there's some concerns, so we wanted to bring it to the board at this stage to share with you where we are and get any other guidance you might have. If there is a desire to take some action, we did put this on both agendas to at least keep our options open for specific guidance or action if you'd like. And we have Paul and Adam here to talk through the specifics, so take it away.
All right, so residents in the Green Acre Drive and Harpeth Drive area have been voicing concern over the narrow roads, and there's a few businesses there that the parking has kind of spilled into them, over into the residential subdivision. Our petition requirements for parking, essentially, we try not to get involved in the HOA issues or these subdivision issues. So we generally have them go do a petition. They're required to get 2/3 majority. In this case, they would have needed about 24 signatures out of 36. Renters generally do not qualify as part of the petition. They can ask the landlord for permission to vote in that as an option. And so where this is at is the residents were able to obtain 12 out of 26 property owner signatures. For the signatures, we were not able to verify whether they were the listed property owners for that house. And so generally our policy would be to not move forward with this. But given the number of rentals, this is what we're being told, the number of rentals that are in this area, this subdivision, has made it very difficult for them to obtain the full 2/3 majority. I will say, as recently as this week, some of the residents that weren't in favor of it have come out and said that they were surprised this was put on an agenda. They were not in favor of it, and so it's a little bit controversial issue within their subdivision. And so at this point, I'm ask Adam if he's got any additional items he'd like to add. He's been the primary point of contact on it.
No, I think you said it all. It's summary. Where we didn't get our 2/3 is the.
And I've got 2 speakers, if I could go ahead and ask them to come up.
12 out of 36.
They got just under 50%.
Well, can I ask a question on that? Because then I see the exhibit where the no parking signs are going to be. And I think you counted the houses down on Harpeth Drive too. As part of there's no parking signs down there. They're unimpacted. So if you take just the Green Acres Drive piece and the Harpeth Drive lots that front where these signs are going to go in the exhibit, I'm still not certain it would have been 85%, but it certainly would have been more than 50. You get all these people down at Harpeth Drive that didn't do it. The end of Green Acres where there's no signs that are going to be in front of their houses. Regardless, that's why it's here. I think the percentages though. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying?
The 2 streets that were on the petition are Green Acres Drive, the extents from West Main all the way to the end of Green Acres Drive, and Harpeth Drive from West Main, Green Acres intersection down to Hill Drive.
But it goes all, so on the.
We didn't do the backside of Harpeth on the.
Well, they were colored on the email.
They did get signatures for people that were not on the petition.
Oh, so these over here are not.
They were not on the petition, but they got those signatures, so I did.
So all those Harpeth Drive at the bottom, those were not a part of
Did
the
not
percentage.
have no parking on that.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank you, Mayor.
I've got two speakers, Julie Duncan and Josh James. I'd ask them to come up. You have 2 minutes each.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. My name is Julie Duncan, and I live at 426 Green Acres Drive. We've lived there for 30 years. When my husband and I moved onto Green Acres, we were the young people, now we're the old folks. I am here in regards to this parking ordinance being discussed tonight. We have a very popular new neighbor. Hank's Coffee Station has become quite a sensation in Franklin. People come from all over Middle Tennessee and even other states to have coffee at this cute little converted gas station. And it makes me very glad to see a thriving business on our side of Franklin. But as we all know, growth can create problems that need solutions that are beneficial to everyone. From its opening, Hank's has needed at least triple the amount of parking than his property provides, and as a result, his customers have been parking along the street in front of homes closest to the coffee shop. In particularly busy days, the parking has extended down the street, which has made some of the neighbors very angry, resulting in threats, cursing, and other unneighborly-like behavior. As a result, the police have become regulars in Green Acres as a response to the complaints. Hank's owner, Josh, has done a decent job in response to the parking problem by hiring a parking attendant to make sure that customers only park on the right side of the street and don't block or turn around in driveways or block mailboxes. Some of the residents are still unsatisfied with the solution and have started a petition, which I signed. When I signed the petition, my understanding was that it was to bring the neighbors together to find a solution to the parking issue, not penalize the homeowners on Green Acres and Harpeth Drive with 15 or so no parking anytime signs installed in our yards around the block. I am opposed to this and am requesting that my name be removed from the petition, which, if I understand the requirements for petitions, currently there are not enough signatures to move forward. The hot-headed anger of a few people didn't take into consideration the day-to-day living of the families in the neighborhood. Some of us don't have driveways that accommodate more than 2 cars. Some of us have children that drive home from college and need to park in front of the house. Some of us have renters that park in front of our homes. Some of us have relatives over for the holidays, and some of us have book clubs, Bible studies, and barbecues, all of which require extra cars parked on the street, either for the day or for a short time. If we have no parking anytime signs in Green Acres, that would make Green Acres homeowners subject to unjust parking fines, and I am opposed to this. I understand and am keenly aware that from approximately 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., some days Green Acres Drive is a one-way street, and if an emergency vehicle is needed to get through, they would be slowed down by the cars parked on the right side of the road. For this solution, I would hope that we could use the wisdom of Solomon and not cut the baby in half.
Thank you. Mr. James?
Hi, y'all. How you doing tonight? I sent an email today. I just wanted to read it back for the people at home watching this and just everybody that's part of this whole deal. To whom it may concern, y'all, we set out to open Hank's Coffee Station with our community and family in mind. We wanted to create a place for visitors, friends, and neighbors alike to gather. Coffee brings people together. We have been blessed with a very welcoming reception and never anticipated the volume of customers that we currently have. And I also think that the city might have underestimated as well, as we were granted our parking plan in our CO to open this business that we worked really hard to open. We used our hard-earned money to open this shop, to support our family, pouring our heart and soul into this passion project of renovating the old dilapidated garage. We were also charged road impact fees prior to opening our doors in the amount upwards of $7,000+. We're asking that some of that money, when I've called Adam in the past, I have offered to even help pay for some kind of signage that says no parking on the right-hand side or no parking in front of mailboxes. Essentially, upon opening, it became clear that there were concerns about parking. So we actively and immediately reached out to neighbors. We talked to the postman. I spoke with the fire department, and I spoke to the city for feedback, solutions, and advice. We quickly remedied the situation by hiring local off-duty firemen that work 7 days a week at Hank's Coffee Station. They're employed by us to work our parking lot and keep things organized near our business for our customers' safety and for the neighbors' quality of life. We also rented a nearby commercial parking lot for all of our employees to park, to open up more parking for our guests, as well as weekend overflow parking for those really big days. This has improved the flow of traffic and has drastically reduced any safety concerns that I'm aware of. We have confirmed not only with members of the Franklin PD that are often out, but also with the fire department when they've been out, that emergency vehicles can in fact get through and have no issues passing through the residential neighborhood, as we guide customers to use one side of the roadway for parking, not both under any circumstances. Reducing or eliminating street parking would drastically impact not only our small business, but also the other small business that are adjacent to our building. As mentioned back in, I think, July, when I talked to Mr. Mosier, our business is more than willing to pay for any city-approved signs and come together to try to figure out a solution that not only helps our business and the businesses across the street from us, but also for the neighbors. Remember, we didn't just do this to get rich quick and have this really popular business. We did it for the neighborhood. We live about 4 blocks away from there. And we wanted to bring something very special to the west side of Franklin, something outside of the downtown or the factory, kind of level the game and bring something really great to West End.
So if you'll finish up, please.
Yes, sir. We currently have signage in our shop at the register with parking suggestions, and that has also helped the traffic flow and safety concerns. Please see the attached documents. We oppose the motion to create no parking zones. Sincerely, Joshua James and my wife Savannah, proprietors of Hank's Coffee Station. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
God bless y'all.
Alderman Baggett.
Thank you, sir.
One reason, I represent the area, appreciate that. That was good and familiar with the business. And there are, I mean, this is one of those problems that is, you know, it's a legacy neighborhood. There's no infrastructure, which we did have a CIP project for sidewalks and drainage in this area, but I don't know that these streets were included. They weren't included. Paul is shaking his head. It's very expensive. I mean, obviously, if this is in a newer neighborhood, the streets would be wider. We would have more infrastructure in these areas to accommodate this kind of thing. When we were doing Envision Franklin, I met with planning staff because there's another popular restaurant on the same corridor that many of us frequent that have similar problems. And the way Envision Franklin has this area, I said during that time with planning staff, and that was, I think, before this was approved, like this is not we were talking about the other establishment at that time, like this is not going to be the last commercial business that opens in this corridor that is going to have the parking problems that this one establishment has that have somewhat been rectified. Not your establishment. And here we are. And I'm going to say it again, like record it and save it on your computer, staff, because it's going to happen again. When that little shopping center happens, when there's a redevelopment or there's a new owner and there another popular whatever comes in over there, this isn't going to stop. And so we've got to figure out, I said it then when we talked to planning staff, and I do believe it was well received, and I do believe they agree, but all of this area is eligible for these types of businesses to go in, and this met the parking requirements we have in our ordinance because of the small square footage. And I think that's an important thing to note. Right. And so we've got to do some problem solving in this area long term. That being said, the only option to keep is no parking signs. That's the only way to keep people from parking in front of other people. I've gotten other phone calls as well from residents who like the lady who spoke, and thank you, that signed it and then didn't realize that they couldn't park there either because it's for everyone. So we have to do something. We have to come up with some solution. This is the only thing we were given, and I want the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to hear this. And I wanted them to understand that this is probably not the last time this is gonna happen. Because as soon as a popular tenant comes in, one of this strip center or any of these other businesses, those residents will suffer even further with the parking and access requirements. I applaud the things the business has done. I appreciate that. And certainly want the business to succeed. But we've got to get creative here. And if this is the most creative thing we've got, then this is what we've got to talk about. But I would like to think there's some more things that could be done long-term in this area to figure out the parking problem that is not going to go away with Hanks.
Yeah, to, I guess, respond to that, it is a challenging area. There, a lot of small lots there as we have them redeveloped. Too much parking almost makes them undevelopable. I will say that the development services team, mostly building neighborhood services and planning, have gone back and re-looked at some of the uses associated with, this was classified as retail, which would have required about 2.5 spaces for this lot. They put in 10. Now, if this same use were to come in, it would be classified as a restaurant.
But even then, it would only have maybe been a couple more spaces.
No.
It's not significantly, yeah, they would have been within that, or very close to that number.
At the restaurant level.
Yes. So if it had been classified a restaurant, you would be facing the same issue. Because the math would have been very close to what they provided. Maybe a few spaces more, but it is, that would not have changed the issue.
Understand, but
Yeah.
let me just, this is where the process doesn't deliver an outcome that I think that we want. Then that to me says that, okay, well, hey, if they'd have been a restaurant, then they'd have been fine too. Well, no. Like, no, we have a problem. The process did not result in an outcome that is what I think, if this is a desired outcome for all of our parking requirements, it's not. So the process, in fact, didn't work, in my opinion, because we have an outcome that is not favorable
Right.
to the residents. And I know that's what it would have been.
You can't necessarily anticipate the popularity of any given
Sure.
business.
But
and so that's part of what you got to look at. And I think Paul made a good point, especially with a small site.
I know.
You can render them almost undevelopable or redevelopable if you have too high a parking standard. And we've had the discussion on the flip side of that issue
it does.
in
It's
other
hard.
areas as well. So there's not a quick and easy,
I understand.
creative solution. It is, you've got to, see if you can find, I don't know if there's a shared parking option. There's not an obvious one in this area.
Well, there could be, and I think
Yeah.
that's where we have to.
I'd love to hear it.
Well, there's about how many commercial properties in this area, and how many of them want to redevelop, and could there be a shared parking lot in this area that is not currently a shared parking lot? But if Hanks talks to Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so across the street, next door, and they have no development potential unless they have parking, and we help facilitate that so that there isn't an outcome. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we got to give them the ideas to make this work.
Yeah.
And I think they've already tried to start doing some of that.
And we've done that in the other situation that you referred to.
Yeah, yeah,
We've
yeah.
tried to assist with that.
You have.
That is that is not directly in our control, but it is an opportunity.
I just think, and that's where that's why I go back to planning, and then we can talk about a specific solution. But I go back to planning. Like, if we need to come up with some kind of plan for this, or else we're going to be cobbling this together, or they're going to be cobbling it together one at a time, and the neighbors are going to suffer with the parking overflow on both sides. So I don't know it's not a plan. I mean, that's Envision Franklin-ish kind of, but at some point, and I don't know what the limit is going to be where we do that, but there's got to be. This is not going to work long term in this area, and I think we know that. Unless someone else knows that this is not going to work long term, not just Hanks.
It's going to be a challenge.
And so we can just file it away and let the neighbors kind of until they reach a tipping point.
No, that's the point I wanted to make, is that our development services team is evaluating it and actively trying to come up with solutions.
Thank you.
We do not
That's
want this
what
to
I wanna
happen
hear.
again.
It's a hard thing.
Alderman Bland.
No, it's definitely a hard thing. Whoa, my mic is really high. I totally understand Julie's point that, she's been there 30 years, and when her son needs to come home, he doesn't need to have to park in the yard, which is also illegal.
Yep.
Right.
And we've had people cited for that, which I understand that's part of the code. But I have had a lot of people reach out to me that have been frustrated with their quality of life that's been hindered, some who have been handicapped and not even been able to get out of their driveway because of being blocked. That's a public safety issue that's bigger than anything. There's been a lot of anger involved, and you understand that. I don't think it's personal against Hanks. I think, we all in this community want to see small business survive, but I don't think the options that we have on the table right now are good or equitable for either you or the neighbors. And I don't know where we are. And yes, we all know there's other opportunities down the street. They're not backing up to as much residential, so it's apples and oranges. I know that there's probably a few neighbors that would be fine with the no parking on either side, but they didn't reach the requirement for that to even happen. So we're kind of at a stalemate. And I don't know what the solution is for everybody to kind of like sing kumbaya and be happy in their environment, work and life, but we're not there. And I can't support a decision until we even get somewhat close to that.
And it sounds like the owner is working to try to find some solutions too. So
Yes, sir,
we'll follow
but
that.
you can't manage people, you can't manage visitors after they've already stopped and come into your place of
I
business.
understand.
To
Who-
police where people are parking.
Nobody else ready to move on?
I was just going to say, I agree with you, Brandy. There's no way I can vote on any of this. And I experienced having my parking taken away in front of my house as well. And that doesn't work. I had, a long time ago, years ago, someone sat on this board and said, we can just shuttle your guest in. I'm like, seriously? That is your quality of life. That is where you live, where people come to visit and you do things. You have to have parking in front of your house, or you have to have some place to park. When you have 30 people over, or 20 people over, or 5 people over, you can't park them in your driveway. And some people might not have a driveway. So we don't have a solution here. I think the only solution you can do right now is what you said in your letter, is you put those signs up. You have to put some signs up and say, maybe, I hate signs, but maybe at every driveway, no parking in front of the driveway, no parking in front of the mailbox. But that would be a whole street littered with signs. But we have to do something about this, and I can't vote on anything. I can't support anything at this point. But I would say keep policing your own patrons if you can. I know you are, but keep doing that and try to solve that solution.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we'll keep moving along then. Item 10 is Resolution 2024-57 to approve temporary medium barrier installation on State Route 96 Murfreesboro Road between Royal Oaks and Interstate 65.
So hopefully you got a chance to look at the exhibits. They're very, very similar. The only differences between them is one has a concrete median and the other one has the delineators. I looked at the existing yellow hatched area out there. It's about between 8 and 12 feet wide. What we're proposing and what we've come up with is to allow U-turns at Center Point Place and allow U-turns at Edward Curd Lane. We did look at trying to accommodate a U-turn at the southbound off-ramp. Ultimately, we thought that would cause too many additional problems and accidents, so we stayed away from it. And really what it comes down to is whether you want staff to try to implement a concrete median or go with the delineators. We did put together a cost estimate for you. The delineators and all the additional signage that you see there, we're now putting at about $96,000. If we go with the concrete median, our consultant came up with an estimate of about $576,000, and happy to answer any questions. And Adam, if there's anything you'd like to add.
Are they, sorry, this is
They
at
are
the end
attached-
of your,
Correct, good. It's attached to the ordinance as concept 1, concept 2 for you to ultimately vote on.
and I will say the estimate could be a little bit smaller. Our consultant did propose an extra overhead sign structure, which it's one of those options that, it's nice, but it's not, you don't need it. So that would reduce the cost a little bit on that 96,000 if we didn't put that sign structure in.
For the
Nice, but we don't
delineators.
need it.
Correct.
I I would recommend against it. I think it is helpful, but I don't know if it's that helpful. We can still put signs on the mast arms at Royal Oaks.
Get much of the same.
Very much so, yes.
Mr. Moser, is that for a standalone sign mast that
It's
holds?
the same type of structure that's existing on 96, right by Kentucky Fried Chicken, Hardee's. There's a sign structure.
Two
that
big
goes across.
poles
Like
with
two
wires
poles.
going across.
Oh,
They don't look the greatest.
okay.
I
Alderman
wish,
Berger.
you gave us this picture on page 4. Wish you had given us a picture of how they look 6 months and a year down the road. They're black. They're not
Yes.
yellow. They're black. And they've got soot and dirt all over them. And some of them are cut in half. And the base of them is all marred up and chewed up. Go down there in a year, look at them, how wonderful they're going to look. Not, N-O-T, they're not going to look good at all. It's a gateway into our city. It's horrible. I've been in all these cities. Huntsville is the worst. They have a problem with these all the time. People hit them all the time. They knock them down. I know they spring back up sometimes, but sometimes they don't. Truck hits them, a big SUV hits them, they're gone. So this is a constant, am I wrong? That is a constant maintenance, correct?
There's going to be a lot of maintenance.
Yeah, a
with
lot of
them.
maintenance.
I can't say how much.
I know the other thing sounds like a lot of money, but we need to fix this because let me ask you something. When do you think TDOT's gonna do this road? Any idea? 2035, 2040?
We've highlighted issues on this
Yeah.
road and this interchange and brought
I-
it to their attention and stressed
Yeah,
the challenges we have with it, but
yeah.
we don't know.
So 2035, 2040, that's long-term. This is a real short-term problem solver here, and it's not going to be to your liking. It's not going to be to our liking. Once this is up, I will guarantee you, mark my word, within a year, I'm not voting for this. It's going to look like an eyesore. It's going to be a maintenance problem. And I know it's a lot of money, but we have to solve this, and we have to put something in here that's going to last 10 years. Because nothing is going to happen in 10 years on this road. You know it, I know it, we all know it, and we got to quit pretending some TDOT's going to come here and do something with it. This is not a good decision. This is not a good idea.
I'm gonna have Josh Lee come up, there's somebody else may want to speak.
Another development pays some impact fees to help with this.
Vintage Grove, the board at the time, there's not an agreement in place, but the board at the time and the developer all agreed to try to put in a concrete median at a future date when those office buildings go forward behind Home Depot, to the east of Home Depot. They were gonna use their impact fees to put in that concrete median. Talking internal, when we had the request come up again for a median, we didn't want to wait on them because that office market is not the greatest, and we don't know when
that
it's.
happens.
Yeah, correct.
So could it potentially be I mean, I guess it could be reimbursed. I mean, they would pay those fees at some time.
Yeah, at some point you will get those. We don't
And
know
so-
what. You may not want to align it because you want to address the safety issue now,
Now.
whether it's
Yeah,
with
right.
the
That's what I'm saying.
concrete or the temporary. We're just saying we need a decision on which path you want to go on. This is a safety concern and we want to address
So,
it.
and that's what I'm saying. If we wanted to go with the concrete barrier, there
Yeah.
is an agreement with that it's at some point in the
Yeah,
future.
at some point that would
And
happen.
that's fine. We
Yeah.
wouldn't have to wait on that to make this decision.
Right.
But there would be some future funds that could be available.
We'd have to wait on collecting them though.
Yeah.
Mr. Lee, you
So
got
no.
2 minutes.
That's right.
Where's the money from Goodall?
I've got Mr. Lee, I've recognized him.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening again. Josh Lee with Thompson Burton, representing the Best Western here. Spoken to you all several times. Really appreciate all of the feedback and the iterations from the city. We're not here to ask for any changes as to any of the proposals, and we'll defer to the board, obviously, as to the type of median that's installed. The one request that my clients asked me to bring forward is an express statement from the board for some additional regulatory flexibility as we evaluate how to address the impacts to the businesses, including the Best Western there, with the lack of left-hand turns, whether it's an increased sign, maybe increased sign height on the property, increased signs that may go along the back of the property as they go in through Royal Oaks, and maybe even some median sign, or not median, some monument signs that may go at the intersection of Royal Oaks and 96 there. So thank you very much for listening to me. We're not here to oppose any of this, understand all of the safety requirements, but just asking for an express statement of regulatory flexibility if the board would prefer that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, and I'm going to recognize Alderman Potts and then Alderman Barnhill.
I'll wait, I think you have a
Okay.
question.
Well, the only thing I would say to you, either one of these presents the same problem that you're talking about with
Absolutely.
Western, so, or whatever it is back here.
Go ahead, Alderman Potts.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I have spoken to a number of residents in the area and also business owners. So, Mr. Lee, I do hear what you're saying. I think that that would be something that the board, I can't speak on behalf of the board, but I know I would take that in consideration, as this is Ward 3, and I want to make sure that we're supporting our small businesses. So, I think as we look at this unique opportunity right here, safety is paramount. However, also supporting small business is good. The residents that I've spoken with have said, do it right the first time. That's what they're expecting us to do right now. And the fact that, as we were just previously discussing, that there is possibly road impact fees, could be, don't know when we're going to collect them, but somewhere in the future regarding other development that's going to occur just south of where we're discussing behind that Home Depot, I think gives us the option. But I am for the concrete median that would go in and for the signage, and I want to make sure that all safety signs are installed. I would rather overdo that area. And the reason why is, I'll just remind everybody right now, the information that was given to us is this intersection, this area had 763 accidents in it. And just within the year, if we measured according to what we had here, from August 1st, 2023 to August 1st, 2024, there were 53 accidents along this stretch that we're talking about. So for those that are in the room and those that are at home, this is either the highest or next to highest most frequent accident-prone area of town. So we've got to do this right.
It is the highest.
It is the highest.
The
Thank
highest,
you.
and there was a pretty bad rollover accident about a week and a half ago.
And concrete helps. keep
Alderman
it
Blank.
that way.
Just passing along information, I've been told that
Yeah.
when you're trying to go to the Best Western, if you use Waze, it takes you the back way.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
That's
Cloud's
good.
updated that several
Oh, good.
months ago.
Good.
Okay.
Try to direct that as much as possible. So,
And the safety factor too, the concrete is safer. It's going to keep people from actually going across. People can actually go across the delineators and hit people head-on. Got a
Alderman
couple for
Caesar.
you.
I worry about the cost here. I don't worry about whether or not we need to do this. It's very, very clear to me that we need to do it, and we need to do it yesterday. I don't know how long, I mean, we had a bad accident that potentially we could have prevented a few months ago had we taken action on this. If the delineators get action going, like within the next week, let's do delineators while we're mixing the concrete. And then let's rip the delineators up and let's put the concrete down. But our community's safety is dependent on us taking action on this, not continuing to talk about it and think about what the future looks like. I think concrete is the best idea, and my peers may not agree with that. I don't disagree that these delineators look trashy. I've not been to Huntsville as many times as all of us have, but these delineators do get worn and driven, but let's put some concrete in. I do have a question for staff. If we decided to move forward tonight with concrete, how long before it would be finished?
I mean, I think we could do almost a no plans contract. So I think 4 to 5 months, we could bid out items and try to get this project moving forward, and it's probably night work.
And 30 accidents.
Yeah.
Any of our standing contracts?
Well, I drove out there today and there was somebody trying to turn left. And
Too much, too expensive.
I was debating between the bollards, or what are we calling the temporary ones, in the concrete, but just sitting here too, you think about the citizens, if there's 50 accidents a year, the property damage to their vehicles, if it's $5,000 on average to fix the vehicles, that's $250,000 a year that citizens are paying in property damage to their vehicles. Although it is more expensive, over time, the cost to citizens actually who end up in these wrecks is going to be more than what we're talking about, and that is probably why I'll support the concrete.
One thing to consider, I think Alderman Caesar just mentioned it, we could do the temporary while we're designing or getting prepped to do the concrete. So it at least address it immediately. Yeah, and get people in, get people going. It would just be while we get prepped that we get the 3 or 4 months that Paul said we need. In the meantime, let's put up the temporary barriers and it at least addresses the safety. I just concerned because it is by far, I mean, it's not even close in terms of the
We don't know
accident.
when TDOT would deliver those.
Yeah.
So they said that they would purchase them and we would install them. But one, I don't know if they would purchase I don't want to call it a throwaway item, but something that we would get rid of fairly quickly. That wouldn't probably go over well with TDOT. And the other thing is those take a while to get in. So
Okay.
it's not like
Well,
we can.
it's a thought. We're thinking out loud, trying
Look at
to,
that though.
let us explore that. And maybe if you gave us
Yeah.
latitude in your motion at 7 o'clock, maybe we could work on that and see
But-
if at least we do that while we're, the time it takes to get the concrete.
But we don't want to spend
in place.
$90,000 and the other money.
Let us
too.
find out.
Yeah.
We
definitely.
don't know if it's 90,000.
Yeah.
Let's find out what
I
what
wanna
we're able to
just
do.
Do it.
Yeah.
All right, item 11 is Resolution 2024-100 to award the construction contract for the East McEwen Drive Phase 4 improvements to Vulcan Construction Materials for $45,844,010.80. Any questions? Let's keep moving on.
We're not receiving the tallies of all the bids anymore in any of these open for bid. We used to receive.
You should have received that.
The breakdown on these.
Generally don't give out all the
Well,
the itemized breakdown. We just
I
give
remember
you-
The overall summary numbers.
We've done it
specifically at
Yeah.
Bicentennial Park. I remember
Yeah.
looking at those and understanding and I really would like that to be included. I don't have to have details.
Yeah,
but
we
that
can
is
give you,
helpful.
we should give you the high level number.
It's
Yeah.
just good to see.
Yeah, we should give you that. This is, again, has over $30 million of federal money in it, and we're continuing to pursue additional federal funds towards this project. That will take a little more time, but we are looking to that. This is significantly below the engineering estimate we had going into the bidding. So we feel like we got very good value here and is a good contractor, and we are urging the award at 7 o'clock so we can get moving. And I'm going to take a wild guess which alderman will make this motion.
I don't know who I'll recognize.
Yeah, you guys can work that out.
Okay, item 12 is Resolution 2024-107 to award the construction contract for the Southeast Municipal Complex project to Reeves Young in the amount of $46,380,782. I'm sure glad they didn't put cents in there. Any questions about that one?
Let me just comment on this really quick because 11 and 12 kind of work together, and so I'll go ahead and jump in if that's okay. This is beyond what the financial model and the CIP has for the Southeast Park, but we also feel like we got a good bid. So this is what it's going to cost. Now, the reality is if we deferred or folded in the value of Robinson Lake, we'd be about whole on the overall financing. The thing we're going to present to you at the first meeting in January is an updated financial model that I think we believe will show some additional capacity that could allow you to do both. Also, there'll be some additional capacity because you have acted on road impact fee structure, and that does give some very conservative estimates, but some capacity in the 10-year window that we did not have before. So there are pieces that will give you the ability to consider Robinson Lake. I would urge you to award this bid so Southeast can move forward, and then we will give you an option. The contractor on Robinson Lake has agreed to extend their bid for
Right.
4 months for us so
we
that
don't-
we
we
can
can defer
make an
that,
informed
right.
decision related to that. So I would ask you when you get to item 13 or when that's on your action for 7 o'clock that you defer that item
Okay, right.
to the
That's what I
January
thought. So-
28th board meeting so that we can give you a work session discussion on the 14th. And then if you're comfortable acting, you may be in a position to act on the 28th to do Robinson Lake. But
But
Southeast,
not deferring Southeast.
I would urge you to go ahead. I would rather see us
Said.
think
What-
differently about Robinson Lake so we can get Southeast
Sure.
going.
What's the difference between what we had in the financial model prior and what the budget is coming back?
It's about 14 to 15 million, so it's roughly the amount of Robinson Lake is where you're over budget collectively on Southeast Park. Because we've already invested significantly on the bridge project and some other components. So you're farther along, so you have places where you've spent money. And when we look at this collectively, but we do believe we've gotten a good bid. You're not likely to do better. On Robinson Lake, that's already been rebid once, and this number is a very good number, we think, for Robinson Lake. So this is the cost it takes to deliver those projects. The other thing we could present to you when you consider Robinson Lake is there is a much dialed down version of Robinson Lake, which is really like some parking and 2 play fields. It's still going to be, what, $2+ million probably to do that. I'm not sure that that's worthy, but we'll develop that option for you. But feel like Southeast Park is at a point that we would urge you to move forward with it. But buy yourself some time to consider what you do with Robinson Lake. And we'll give you an updated financial model that gives you a little more context to make that decision.
Have we looked at pulling anything out of the scope of Southeast Park?
We really have. We have some other elements that we are delivering outside of the bid that is more efficient to deliver in terms of, I believe, what, lighting and some other pieces.
They're purchasing a bunch of stuff off contract to try to reduce the overall price of the project is what they did.
Yeah, and again, you're already doing a phased approach on that project anyway. This is the 5 play fields, inclusive playgrounds, parking, some of the other key components, roadway, et cetera. So we've looked at that. We tried to be as efficient as we can. We pulled some things out of the bid to acquire directly that we think we can do more efficiently. But it's a big project, and this is the cost to deliver a meaningful first phase.
Item 14, well, we hit 13.
You really hit 13 already.
Yeah, we've already done that, so we'll do 14, which is a contract 2022-0247 with Crowcroft Holding LLC for Parkland Impact Fee and Construction Agreement. Is that just a name change?
No, sir, it was a correction in fees. When I was diving into the parkland, I found a correction that was a private amenity and it was published for a public amenity. So I went in and adjusted those numbers.
It just modifies the formula.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, great. Item 15 is resolution rejecting the construction bids for the Water Reclamation Facility Rehabilitation Resiliency Improvements Project.
As Michelle comes up here, I'll try to touch on it, but she can fill me in. We want to reject. We only got one bidder. We don't think it's a good value. We'd like to reject tonight so that we can move forward with rebidding in January. This is a project that we have received it's really state ARPA money coming back to us in a grant. So there is some time urgency with the project through, September of 26, I think. So we think we'll be okay on timing, but we do want to get it rejected tonight so we can rebid in January.
Right.
And we think we can get a better option then.
Is there some caveat that you need to put with that?
Oh, yeah, let me cover that.
Yeah,
Yes,
you'll cover
thank you.
that.
The tricky part with this one is there is a protest period for the bid that does not expire till December 14th. So that's
4 days.
Saturday. So if you could your motion should incorporate the rejection of the bids at the end of the protest period, which ends December 14th. So if you just add that to your motion, that gives us direction. We don't expect a protest. I don't know that would change your action anyway, but you let the protest period run and then grant authority to reject bids after that time. And I guess you'd be granting that authority to me as city administrator on your behalf.
Okay. Item 16 is resolution 2024-87 to accept the 2024 drought management plan.
So I just have a couple kind of narratively things to talk about. We had talked about revising this last year after we were in kind of such a serious drought in October and November. So we spent some time earlier this year revising it. It was sent to TDEC and we got it back approved by TDEC. So then the next step is for you to approve it via resolution. We made some changes and I'm just going to kind of briefly go over those. One of the things we talked about was we have, when we go into a drought, what we have kind of started playing with last year is we can throttle the plant back from production. So we increase throughout the periods, we increase the water we purchase from Harpeth Valley we pull our plant production back to help maintain longer storage days in the reservoir, essentially is what it is. And so through the different levels, through voluntary and through emergency status 1 and then 2, we throttle the plant back a little bit more and a little bit more each time to kind of increase those days. So before, the way that the plan was written was that we would maintain the same production we always do. So like, we have a full reservoir right now, and we would declare drought based off of that. What we're doing now is we're saying if we can throttle the plant back, we can extend the life of our reservoir a little bit and potentially work to increase the length of time before we declare drought. I think I said that right.
It's a better balancing of
It is-
the Harpeth Valley water being pushed, my simple terms, deeper into our system,
right.
so that we can use that as an offset and better manage when we treat and how much we preserve what's in our reservoir, so that we aren't at a drought condition as quickly. And it's really the water management staff figuring out ways to better use the system and to use that water throughout the system,
Right.
and to help us manage what we've got from the Harpeth River in balancing with what we get from the Cumberland through Harpeth Valley.
Alderman Seaver.
I did have a quick question. The engineer in me, which I was in engineering school for a day, wants to know, did you model this retroactively to see if this adjustment how it would have affected us in the past few years when we'd have to declare drought?
Well, we did one better than modeling, and this is what we actually did. So the way that we really look at the system is how we can hold the tanks in the system. So if we can hold them high enough to maintain that required level of storage that we need, in case something were, catastrophically to happen in the city, right? So we found that if we can throttle the plant back, we can still maintain those tank levels while also pulling some more water from Harpeth Valley. So we've tried a lot of different scenarios, and when we get in droughts, conditions, it is as full on. We are a team and trying to pull levers and knobs and figure out exactly what we can do to prolong that as much as possible. So this is kind of putting all of those actions into a
So this
document.
is work. We're just documenting the
Correct.
success.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a little frustrating during this last period because we knew we were really in better shape than the drought condition
Right.
would lead you to believe, because we had good tank levels, because we were doing these things. But the way the drought plan was constructed was really entirely based on that reservoir and
Limiting
these
us.
assumptions.
Yeah, so TDEC
this is a
TDEC
more
has-
holistic view.
TDEC has a copy of our drought management plan and really makes us follow it. So this is why we're giving us a little bit more freedom to allow us to kind of, throttle things back and play with the system a little bit more.
Alderman Peterson.
What percentage of the city water comes from Harpeth Valley?
So during a perfect day like today, it's about 2/3.
About 2/3 on a good day for us. You see what I'm saying? People were saying, oh, it's about 1/3 or something like that or less. And I said, no, it is a huge, huge, huge part of our everyday.
Yeah.
So we've got two sources, which is a benefit.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, we're ready to move on to item 17, which is a presentation for proposed parkland impact fee ordinance amendment.
So about a month ago, we presented to you an overview of the Parkland impact fee, where we were and what some options might be. And so we wanted to bring back to you tonight, revisit that a little bit and specifically hone in on what we called option 3, I think last time, as a recommended approach, and get your feedback if you were comfortable with us moving forward with exploring that further. So we've got Kevin, Chris, and Heather here to talk through that, and we'll do an overview and get feedback from you. So take it away.
I know I'm not Lisa, but she sends her apologies. She's a little bit under the weather, so I'm glad she didn't come and share with us tonight. So let's go ahead and give an overview. We're at $4,304 per unit right now with our parkland. That's for each individual dwelling that comes in, or an ADU, accessory dwelling unit. At land, we are at $62,121 for outside the floodplain. That's what we can give credit for. And for inside the floodplain, we're at $45,757. And that breaks us down to 69.41 dwellings per acre. Okay, so what we've got now is we're going to share a few options with you. I'm going to let Chris take over and run with it.
Thanks for having me. So we're just going to recap what we went over 4 weeks ago, whenever it was. For option one, we have no changes. So everything's going to be the same as it currently is in the ordinance. For option two, we use the same methodology as 2017. So that means, but we updated the values to 2023 values. So in that, we got a new dwelling units per acre target service level of 66.31. The cost per acre of land, we used the 2021 property valuation as assessed by the county. And then we came up with a new cost to develop a 5-acre park based on assessments of construction costs at this time. For that, the fee is $10,859 when you combine land with the cost to develop the park. Then we did option 3A, which is to maintain the same land value or the same values as 2017 for cost per acre of land and the dwelling units per acre target service level. What we did increase was the cost to develop a 5-acre park, and that's an inflationary cost from 2017 through 2024 using the CPI index. And that new impact fee would be $5,267.
On parkland impact, just to make sure everybody realizes, this is for residential units only. It's not applied to commercial properties. So this is really just dealing with housing units.
Option 3B takes into account option 3A, and then it adds an inflationary cost that we would put in the ordinance every year, which would be a CPI cost, added on to the $5,267, and then each year after that. There were questions last time regarding, currently it's a 25% non-refundable amount, or it gets contributed to citywide parkland improvements. So we wanted to investigate what that would look like if we went from 25 to 30 to 35 up to 50%.
Yeah, so what we have now for you, we've put together, and just to recap, we currently have two agreements in place. One is fees only, so developer can just come in and pay fees only, or they can do a fees and construction, okay? The fees and construction, like he said, on this one, 25% comes in off the top, so that's the total. And then whether they come in with construction of private amenities or private or public amenities, they either get 75% if it's open to the public, and they only get 50% if it's private, like a private pool. Okay, so I just want to set that clear. And we put some estimates together going forward that kind of shows what those fees could be and what we have in place. And Chris will take over.
So what we did here is we took the contracts that we currently have in law with developers for parkland agreements. This first slide is only people that have had to have a contract for fees only, no reimbursement. So they're going to pay all their parkland fees up front. We took that from 2019 to 2024, and we acted as if the same level of development occurred. And we wanted to show you what that revenue would look like if we went from 4304 to 5267. And so if we went up to the new impact fee with the same level of development, we would bring in an additional $2 million with that new impact fee. On this one, we took into account all the people that currently have contracts for up to a 25 or up to 75% reimbursement. 25% of it will go to contribution to citywide park improvements. And then we took those same numbers and then changed that to 30%, 35, 40, 45, and 50% non-reimbursable or contribution to citywide park improvements. So if the same level of development activity occurs over the next 6 years, at the current 25% non-reimbursable, we'll bring in $7.5 million estimated in parkland revenue. And you can see we did varying levels. So if we go all the way up to 50%, which I think was mentioned, up to that potentially, we would increase our revenue by 7.5. We'd essentially double our revenue because we wouldn't be giving back 75%. We'd only be giving back 50%. And so
you'd be assigning it to citywide.
Citywide, yeah, that would go to citywide park improvement projects. This one was done at the current rate, at 4304. So if we said, we're not going to increase it, but we're going to change the percentage they can get reimbursed. This one is done at the potential new rate, option 3A or 3B. And so we would bring in 9.25 at the current 25%. If we went up to 50, we would bring in an additional 9.25, which is a citywide park contribution. And we did the 5% increments up to 50%.
So I think one little piece of analysis as you think about it, and from a policy standpoint, if you shift to where there's a higher percentage going to citywide parks, that's good, that benefits them. But for many of these developments are getting offsets for things they're doing as amenities within the neighborhood. That allocates fewer dollars to that use and puts more dollars into the citywide benefit, but probably ends up in the bottom line to a developer doing a residential project. They're probably writing a larger check to the city and getting less offset for the neighborhood amenities if you change that policy. Because that was kind of one of the things I think Alderman Baggett was referencing. What if we change that formula? What would that look like? We gave you some numbers, but it's really both assigning more to that, which would result in more going to that part of the pot, but less going to the offset for local or neighborhood amenities. So I think that's the trade-off. And we tried to give you all that whole range. If you wanted to play with that, what would that look like? But it probably ends up in a larger fee being paid at the end of the day and getting less offset.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Alderman Baggett, and I do have one speaker, by the way.
Because this is kind of a more this is an interesting concept, because if you raise the fee to the 5,000, we're raising whatever percentage that is, then our 25% is going to go up by that amount.
If we go from 4304 to 52, we would bring in essentially in fees only 2.2, I think.
If you had the same level of development,
We
you'd
had the
get
exact
2
same
million
level.
in additional fees.
We're also requiring, this is the thing, like we're requiring them to spend more money on amenities within their development.
Well,
to get the credit.
Or there's more to get offset. In a lot of cases, folks are putting in significant amenities. It may or may not cause
Anyway.
more investment. They're doing it anyway, and they're getting credit in many cases.
Correct.
Some write us a check, but.
Correct. And it also takes us out of the construction phase and the CIP projects.
Well, we just
Right?
have- we
So
have-
they're building it, and that's what, I do this all the time with all the developments, and the only thing negative I hear back is, can I get more for the price of land? That's the only negative I've heard from that. Nobody gripes or complains about anything else, but is there a way I can get more from my land because it's on the I-65 corridor or because it's here? And currently, right now, all we can give you is $62,000 if it's outside the floodplain.
Yeah.
So I love raising that percentage, but at the end of the day, it's putting us back into the construction phase. And now we have to fight with those CIP projects to get that project to fruition.
Well, it's
So
additional
a give
funding.
and take.
It's additional
Yes,
funding source.
It's
for
additional
those
funding
projects.
source.
Well, we've got a $60 million project that we just talked about that is $15 million over budget, and it's a lot to stomach, and that's just phase one of that project. So I'm very interested in. I still have questions. We'll do the public comment, and I'm sure there'll be other discussion. Because I'm
Ask,
interested in
Elizabeth
the
Sharp to
percentage.
come up. You have 2 minutes, Ms. Sharp.
Is that on? Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Elizabeth Sharp, and I am the Government Affairs Director at the Williamson County Association of Realtors. I really just wanted to come and introduce myself and let you all know that we are going to be monitoring this, and we want to be a resource as much as possible, as we are, concerned with the affordability of housing. So, again, that's all I wanted to say, but thank you.
Other comments, Alderman Peterson.
Well, way back in the day, all the lots for residential development had enough space that you could at least put a swing set in there. Now, the lot sizes are just taken over, completely. I mean, they're so small that the house itself is the only thing that's really there. And so I think that problem of not being able to have something on your own lot needs to be at least considered to have something in the development itself. And all of these things that we're talking about here, about having the big citywide parks, the children need to be able to be active
And that means something close by. And we're not seeing as much of that as I think is needed, absolutely needed.
Alderman Barnhill.
Make sure that I understand something. When we give basically credit for a pocket park or something that's directly related to the development itself, we're not, this Parks Department is not getting any benefit, nor is the 90-something percent of the people who are not able to go to that, unless you would consider the fact that if there's a pocket park in that development, the kids are going to that rather than to the large city park that we're providing. You know, it's been my position pretty much all along that I don't see the credit being given for an amenity in a development that is basically to improve the amenity itself. And that's what's happening here when we're doing these smaller parks and 75, 25, 50, 50, whatever percentage it is. And I'm gonna go back and go through this again and look at it, make sure that I understand specifically. But, you know, I think the city's responsibility is, I don't think it's for that very small park that was built by the developer. And I could look at one, I mean, we've got one in Willow Springs, very small park. And there's one across the street, fairly small park that the developer put in. And I doubt I know we didn't, I know Willow Springs didn't, but I doubt very seriously the one across the street got a credit for building those parks. It improved the sellability of the units in the development.
We don't design the parks. Again, the developer that's bringing the development in will design those parks. All he has to do is go through the contract, and they have to be park or park-like amenities. And then we can say yes or no that we would give either a 75% back or 50% back, depending on if it's open to the public or private. A private pool that you got to have a car to get into, that's 50%. But an open plaza.
We're giving 50% credit back for swimming pools?
Yes.
In neighborhoods?
Yes.
See,
For
do you
private
have a
amenities.
comment?
For private
Alderman
Yeah,
Beck?
I just had a question off of Clyde's. In these pocket parks, are they, if it's just a park with a bench, that doesn't do anything for the kids. Is it a park with swing sets or slides or something else, or something they can actually utilize? Do we have those stipulations?
We don't have those stipulations. That's up to them because they have to own it, maintain it, and take care of it. It's not dedicated to the city of Franklin. So
Right.
with the development putting in a swing set, they have to take on that responsibility and that liability.
But wouldn't
So
they-
some of them are installing playgrounds, some of them are installing walking trails, that sort of thing, and just open space, green space. We're not double dipping on the formal and informal open space that planning already.
But I would think there would be more funds, they would be able to get more credit if they put something that keeps the kids there to, if you don't have a swing set, you don't have any like Liberty Park. It has a swing set, it has slides, and it has some things where the kids can run around and play on. Now, if you put that kind of thing in a subdivision, then the kids have that there. That would be more credited to them to do that. But are we giving them more offsets for something? You know, I see a difference. Why would they get the same amount for an offset if they're just having an open space versus something that's actually usable?
Well, it has to be tied to the park and it has to be park-like amenities. So if it is private, then that is not open to the public and they only get 50%. But if that playground is open to the general public and they put an easement on it that it will forever be, then you can get 75% back.
Yeah.
So that's the option of the developer. It's a selling point for the developer
Yeah,
to build
that's true.
and to add all these amenities into their development.
Yeah.
I mean, it's proven that a house is 25% more valuable if it's close or within a walking trail.
Yeah.
Period. So that's facts.
Alderman Baggett.
And I think, I believe that. What we have is, I'm sitting here thinking, is almost $100 million worth of parks. You talk about getting in the construction business. We're already in it.
We are.
Jim Warren redo, Southeast, what is it, McEwen, or
Yeah,
the
Liberty Park.
Liberty
Liberty
Park?
That's up next.
Over 100 million, I think. Someone can correct my math. These are all necessitated by our growing, bustling community. And I just think that when these were put into place, and by the way, you've already made the argument that many times developers are spending more than they can get reimbursed back.
Sure.
The demand for amenities is clearly exceeding. For their product to be successful, they have to have the amenities. I don't know that when we implemented these initially, that was the case. Now I think in our community, especially, let's think about Village Green.
Yep.
But I think there's a lot that has changed. In our land use plan now, Village Green with 70% open space, I don't know that this formula is getting us to, all those people are gonna need fields. Well, they're gonna have playgrounds all over this Village Green concept with 70% open space where there are gonna be trails required anyway, or not required, they're probably gonna put them in.
Optional. They're optional.
Probably, and they'll get some credit back, but we have to then fund the parks for these however many homes end up getting built across the community in Village Green. I think we have to, and that's why I'm more inclined with maybe not even, have we thought about not changing the fee, but just changing the percentage singularly, which I think is why you have that slide.
That's essentially what we're bringing, this
Is
came
that
up
what
in
you're
the previous
recommending?
discussion.
The
How would you
percentage?
like us to do this? There is
Yeah, percentage should be better.
the effect of changing the balance of community-wide versus neighborhood benefit does result in probably more out-of-pocket coming from any given developer because there's less to offset. That is a policy choice.
They're spending more on amenities in their community than they can get offset now.
Many times that seems to be.
That's what happened with
More
this.
often than
Yeah.
not.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
I would say 95% of them are spending well over the amount that they cannot get reimbursed because we're not allowed to do that per the way the unit breaks down.
Understood. I just think that this is perfect. I do think that somewhere more than 25% reimbursable, we have to start that's more than City Hall that we have in parks planned for the next 10 years that we need. And I just think this percentage is the direction that I would go, and not changing the fee, but looking at really more acutely by staff how this changing in percent reimbursable, unreimbursable, and kind of what has been reimbursed for. If we're reimbursing for swimming pools in everyone's neighborhood, which is fine, I understand that's an amenity that needs to be done. They're probably going to do it anyway. Maybe not. But what we have to do is pay $130 million for more fields for everyone to play on. And so I'm more inclined to leaving the fee, but maybe changing the reimbursement percentage. You could raise the fee, you're just raising the amount reimbursed anyway, right? I mean, if you raise the fee, the 25% is still, so you're raising it either way. I just think that the percentage change might be best.
I will say that when we look historically at what people have chosen, like by and large, they choose to pay fees only. So the research that Heather gathered, 55 developments chose fees only and 5 only chose 25% or 75% reimbursement, 25% non-reimbursable.
Say that one more time.
55 chose fees only.
Just fee only.
Fee only.
So how many are we dealing with this reimbursement situation? I mean,
So on the books, we have these 5, correct? There's only 5 right now. What I used are contracts that are in the works, but they haven't started developing yet. Because currently we only have 5 on the books right now that are doing reimbursement.
Alderman Potts? Yeah, we've got one more item to go, so Alderman Potts.
Yeah, and Eric, since you're just making a comment about direction, I do like option 3B, where we've got the 5% CPI added, and you've got it broken down across each one of the years. I think that's something that the city needs to continue to do, and I'm glad that we're seeing it right here, because we're just following what is good practices.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Any residential, but residential only. It doesn't apply to office and other commercial.
We can do mixed use, but the commercial
Discriminate
is
against,
pulled
yeah.
out.
just
That it's
all
only the
residential. Okay.
residential component.
Dwelling or ADUs. If you're going to build a mother-in-law suite behind your house, then yes, because eventually they can sell that house and they can sell that as another structure behind that's rentable.
Can we go to budget goals?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Item 18, 2024-108, resolution of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for the City of Franklin adopting budget goals for FY 2025-26.
This was reviewed with the Budget and Finance Committee last Thursday. I'm going to touch on it tonight in the little bit of time we have. And then this will be before you for approval or vote at the January 14th meeting. So each year we do, as we start the budget process, set out what those goals are. There's a mix of what we really cover every year that are kind of foundational to a good budget, which are the financial goals themselves, and then we have some other non-financial that get at operational performance and quality that are constants in our budget, and then we have some specifics around the fiscal 26 year that we're anticipating. And we have adapted or modified the budget goals going forward to reflect both your updated vision statement about being a community with America's favorite hometown, driven by excellence, balancing preservation and progress. And then the updated 6 primary goal areas of safe, clean, livable city, sustainable growth and economic vitality, being fiscally sound, quality life experiences, organizational health, and operational excellence. So all those that have been refreshed in our strategic plan discussions over the last year are reflected in how we're structuring the budget goals that come before you. Just some examples of what are in the financial goals themselves. We get at being in a positive financial position, adhering to financial management principles for public funds, best practices there, and being in compliance with the board-approved financial policies. We present to you a structurally balanced budget, meaning ongoing revenues and ongoing expenditures are in balance, that we have an opportunity to diversify revenue sources where we see it. We pursue grant opportunities where we can. Within the non-financial goals, we touch on delivering high-quality services, delivering on the 10-year capital investment program and projects identified there, being economically competitive and supportive of job growth and positive private investment. That we build and enhance. One of the things we've established in the last couple of years is building and enhancing our employee engagement and support of our team. And then turning specifically to the 26 specific goals, we've got some specific goals here. We talk about being in line with the strategic plan. We're also developing for you some specific deliverables in the 1 to 3 year. You'll see that before we get to the budget adoption and budget recommendation, but that's an evolution of the strategic plan that we are providing for growth, the delivery of growth-related infrastructure and options and ideas on how to support those investments in a timely manner. We'll continue to look at strategies to deliver and support affordable and workforce housing in the community, targeted infrastructure enhancements, growth patterns and infrastructure planning that are aligned. Of course, the growth plan itself has recently been updated and approved and accepted by the state of Tennessee. That we also have a comprehensive review of our compensation plan. We're on a 3-year cycle to do that. That will also be addressed as part of this budget cycle. Of course, we did some of that early in this year's budget related to public safety. We made significant adjustments for police and fire. We have also established separate pay groupings and pay plans relative to each of those components within our public safety ranks in police and fire, and targeted a highly competitive positioning there. We'll extend that into looking at our overall compensation plan, and what we try to do is an every 3-year update of that plan. Continue to look at our engagement with the public, continue to enhance that and our connection with the community, and being economically competitive. We want to be highly competitive for top-line investment in our community and work cooperatively with the state, with Williamson County and other partners to deliver on that. And of course, delivering on transportation needs. The existing CIP is somewhere in the 70+% of those investments are in transportation. We want to make sure we're looking at opportunities to partner. Specifically, we're looking at opportunities to partner with Tennessee Department of Transportation on high-profile, high-impact roadway projects that are in the state area of responsibility. But how can we help expedite those and partner with them to deliver key needs? So that'll be a focal point of our budget process as well. So I'll stop there. Michael's here, who does a great job shepherding this process with our team, but glad to answer any questions or take any recommendations you have. And again, we'll have this for you for a vote on the 14th of January.
We do have an executive session tonight, FYI. And if there's no questions, we're going to adjourn this meeting, and we'll try to get back in here as close to 7 as we can.